Well, this is Politics and Power, a very special social media feature that I do as part of my remit to give back to my community. And by that I mean, I believe that professionals, academics, and any other contributor should be able to give in equal measures to the community, which certainly has made them. It is very difficult to think that you are a self made person. There must be something about your community, your family, your environment, your village, and wider circles that have contributed to making you who you are. So, who I am today is a product of a number of things, people, activities, events. So, I'm in a position where I am able to give back, and I'm doing so as regularly as I can here on social media. And I do so by sharing my understanding of the political world, my training that I have done in the concepts of government and of politics, and the reasoning that I think I bring to the table, a neutral, independent, nuanced perspective of the different ideas of politics and of governance. The program is called Politics and Power, and it is, again, a public giving on areas of the same. We have defined politics over and over again, but for the purpose of this program, politics is the constant engagement of individuals, the rivalry, the engages, the exchanges, a process by which authority is determined, and governance is, of course, the authority that is elected to serve a people. So these two concepts have been broken down over and over, and I deal with specific areas of those concepts time after time. On today's feature, we're looking at a very interesting case of the November 5th US presidential election, which the entire world would know by now was won by the Republican candidate for president and former president of America, now president elect. I do not call the name of the actual candidate as a professional courtesy. It's a decision I took a long time ago, mainly because the name is a brand and I don't promote brand, and two, because there was and there is and can be so much made about the name, a very non-conventional name and character in the US presidency that has brought up very interesting debate. And I felt it best as a professional not to indulge in the name in any way, shape, or form, to take or to give to the name, and certainly not to be part of extending the brand that the name is. So I refer to our former president as number 45, and I refer to the incoming president as number 47 elect, the name of the presidency that the president carries. So my program on this particular episode looks at the strategies which were employed to bring about the election results that we saw on November 5. Not necessarily to cast any blame or to look for reasons why, but to speak about the basic elements of strategies which are employed and necessary for presidential wins. So I'm happy that you have joined me here. Those of you who have joined me live, I look forward to engaging with you towards the end of the program. I expect to be here for about 35, 40, 45 minutes, because I do not need more than that to make the point that I wish to make. But if you have questions and answers that stretches me into closer to an hour, we'll do that. I give myself an hour but I hardly ever go to the hour mark. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing. The strategies, simply that. Not reasons, not excuses, not blames. Basic, fundamental strategies to win a presidential election in America. There are a number of tenets that you look at when you talk about an election campaign in America when it comes to the presidency: slogan, money, appeal, momentum, message, issues, and the ability to get out the vote. These are the fundamental pillars of a successful presidential campaign, at least based on how I understand it in America. So we can look at slogans employed in this campaign. Tenant number one. What was the slogan employed by number 45? No, number 47 elect? MAGA, Make America Great Again. How old is that slogan? Not, not even a slogan anymore. This is a movement now. So it is even bigger than a slogan. This movement slash slogan is 4, 8, 12 years old. So it is very well entrenched. It is identifiable. It says something. It calls action. And it demands participation to make America great again. When you break it down, there are questions that could be asked about that. But we're not going to even get into that tonight. Probably we'll break down MAGA at some other time. But MAGA as a slogan slash movement, call phrase, is appealing. And I'll get to that a bit later on. What was the slogan, the campaign slogan of Miss Harris? Can somebody tell me? You could type it in the message. I'll look at it in a little while. But from my understanding, there was not a quite defined slogan. I saw freedom. I saw when you fight, we win, and a number of different popular sayings. But what was this one encapsulating slogan that rallied people to want to stand up and fight for the cause? More than MAGA would have. Now, again, there are criticisms and there are questions to be asked about MAGA. What MAGA is really saying, what is MAGA really about, etc., etc. This program is not to break down MAGA, is to see the strategies employed and the framing used in promoting that strategy. The slogan. So that's one. Again, while we think about Mrs. Harris's slogan and Democratic Party slogan, just think in mind what a slogan is supposed to do. It's supposed to be catchy. It's supposed to be a call to action. It's supposed to be spontaneous. It is supposed to be something identifiable. Slogan. Money. It's obvious Ms. Harris was able to raise more money than number 45 in the early openings when her campaign was just launched. But that was neutralized towards the end with the super billionaires stepping in to contribute to number 45's campaign. So you can say money's even Stevens, but probably in the benefit to the advantage of Miss Harris. I'm going to come back to a point or allude a point to every area where the person, the candidate, would have done better. So let's say slogan number 45 got that. Let's say money, even Stevens. So far, 45 is in the lead. Appeal. Both campaigns had appeal, strong appeal, one appealing to a base and a movement and an idea and an attitude and an ethos, the other appealing to the preservation of democratic concepts, preservation of rights and stuff like that. So let's say appeal, equal, even Stevens. Although some may say the appeal was more on the MAGA side. Momentum. Where was the momentum in the presidential election that we just witnessed? Again, one would have said that Ms. Harris, when she came into the game after President Biden decided to step down, or was told to step down, or was asked to step down, or was forced to step down, who knows? But he didn't contest anymore, and she came into the scene and she hit the ground running, but that did not sustain past, let's say, a month and a half. Number 45 continued and kept on going. Although there were some moments where he had a little lull, But there were some major instances when his life was at stake, at least on two occasions, and this would have helped his campaign and the momentum if it were dwindling. So momentum, who has the edge over that? Again, is your call, but I think it's leaning towards MAGA. Message. What was the message in the campaign? Who had the stronger message? Who carried the message through? Who hammered the message home? As vexing as the message was, with who is eating dogs and cats and everything else and the garbage island, message was emphasized. MAGA's message was immigration, the economy, and inflation, security, homeland, and global. And that were the major issues in the election. And that was MAGA's message. And that's what MAGA pushed. As vexing as it was in certain instances, this was it. So one has to say that MAGA was on message. Probably the time worked best for a MAGA campaign, and the message worked better for MAGA. Miss Harris had a message as well, but can we identify the core of Miss Harris's message? And probably how effective it was, how effectively she presented her message. Now let's go to the final tenet, get out to the vote. Who was able to get more people out to vote? MAGA, simply, easy. We see it in the probably equal numbers that he got and the less numbers that the Democratic Party got. So the Democratic Party, based on their strategies, was not able to get out of the vote. So on this variables, slogans, slogan, money, appeal, momentum, message, issues, get out the vote, advantage MAGA. Let's see, 3 to 5, 4 to 6, somewhere thereabout. And guys, we are talking about strategy, not emotions or sentiments. And you may not have liked the MAGA campaign, but the MAGA campaign was rough, on message, uncut, brutal. I spoke about the major issues, immigration. No one can say that it wasn't. The economy and inflation, no one can say it wasn't. And security. How secure are we in America and in the global space? Who carried that message better? MAGA. There are some other things that one must look at when you develop a presidential campaign, as far as strategies is concerned. You ought to develop a relatable campaign message narrative. And again, as an objective onlooker, and I would have said that in my classroom on many occasions, I think the campaign promoted by MAGA are kind of extreme at times, seemed more relatable to more people at one time. Yes, the Dems had some very strong points when it comes to women rights and issues like that, but MAGA had a more well-rounded, captive audience when it came to their message. Strategies to engage the younger voter. I teach young people, I hear them all the time, especially the young men, who were just into this MAGA appeal, macho sort of attention that came with it in a way that probably we still cannot yet explain. But the younger, especially masculine voter, minority voters seem to have gravitated towards MAGA. The effective use of digital marketing, social media. The last endorsement MAGA would have gotten was on the day of election or the day before election by this Rogan guy. And he would have been on a number of these platforms, some of them extreme and some referred to as dark. But he was on and he messaged very effectively on his platforms. The use of social media and marketing effectively. I got you. I got you. MAGA was also able to target and engage supportive voters, voters who will resign to the MAGA call, the clarion call, a bit more than the supportive voters would have stood up to defend, because you would have observed that there was a sort of nervousness around the Harris voters, the supportive voters, anxiety. You didn't quite get that from MAGA. Again, guys, I'm just relating what I think the strategies were and how effective they were played out. No emotions, no partisanship, no preferences, just brutal, honest analysis of how the election was executed. Early planning, another key component when it comes to presidential elections. You ought to know that you're going to contest an election at least more than 100 days before the election, because Miss Harris was not even supposed to be a candidate. She became a candidate by default. Again, an unforced error by the Dems, not having the foresight to allow the lady the opportunity to prepare for the campaign 4 years in advance. Because we all knew that the current president would have been aging, and he said that he would have been a bridge candidate making the way for the future of the party. So I would think objectively, probably it might have been good if he had said when he won, that's it, we're happy, we got this, we restored the soul of our nation. Here is the future for our campaign and our party and our country. That wasn't done up until a major mishap happened in the Dems campaign, which installed Miss Harris. She was pretty much presented as a sacrificial lamb. I'm not too sure who expected so much more. I mean, she did as well as she could have done with the time that she had. But I think better opportunities ought to be given to sisters if we expect them to do better in a race that is characterized by men. It is not that America is not ready for a female candidate to be president. It is just that I don't think the female candidate was properly procured, as was seen. Fantastic talent, but another talent that has gone a begging. So preparedness is very important when it comes to winning elections in America. MAGA is a robust call to protect America's fundamental values, life, liberty, and happiness. No matter how you say it, how you put it, that is what MAGA is appealing to. Now, there are some radical elements and narrative around MAGA, but MAGA suggests that. And there are people who probably hopelessly are devoted to this MAGA thing, not knowing that there might be elements of MAGA that could hurt themselves. Because America is still precariously placed on very thin ice when it comes to race and race relations. We don't have to go very far in America's past to figure out certain things. But America is not this country that totally embraces hate. No, Americans do not subscribe to this division that some people believe the election results suggest. No, MAGA played the better game. MAGA has some radical views, but MAGA was the brand that more people decided to go with, for good or for bad. And one hopes for good, because you can campaign a particular way, but you ought not govern that particular way. Ms. Harris was talking about the protection of America's democracy. America was not even declared as a pure democracy. America is a constitutional republic with democratic tendencies, but America was not created as a democracy. So what are you really protecting? The idea, the rights? Well, protect the rights. I'm protecting the city. I'm protecting the country. I'm protecting the republic. That's what MAGA was about. And again, you can criticize MAGA as much as you wish, but that is for you to do. I'm not here to critique MAGA. I'm here to talk about the strategies. And I'm almost done, guys. MAGA resonated to the ethos of America's Americanness, which is rooted in an unchanging attitude which speaks to the sustenance of the mainstream American culture. And ladies and gentlemen, that is my presentation tonight. I don't have much more to say when it comes to the strategy and who would have won or who did win. That is my honest analysis of where the election was, how the election was run, and where and how it was won. I really have nothing else to add to that but to say that I'm hoping that the conversation continues and people take the time to create analysis around the results, which is fair and balanced and upfront and critical, devoid of any emotional outbursts as I took my time. Elections happen on November 5th. I am presenting this discussion on the 18th. So I took some time to think about this and to present this idea to you in a very shortened way, not an elaborate, ranty way. And I had no illusions as to what the possible result of the elections was going to be. Of course, like everybody else, one may have hoped that the result was a particular way or not, or the other. No one knows who I voted for. But I had no illusions that the elections was going to be won by a candidate with a very wide margin. And I said so on a program that I did on the night of the election. And I'm going to hear that little clip just before we end my conversation tonight. So here is what I said on November 5, when the first set of votes were coming in. And I've always held true to this. View this, and then I'll come back to wind up the program. 270. You need
270.
Yes. Votes to get to be president. Now, there's a lot of matrix, if nobody gets that, I mean, we don't really have to get into that tonight, and that might sound too teachy or too lectury, but there is a matrix if nobody gets to that. But somebody's going to get to 270. It hardly ever is a case where somebody does not get that. And that represents the majority of electoral college votes. And there are some candidates who have gotten super majorities, 300, 320, 312, 304. I think tonight could be a night like that, where one candidate could get a supermajority, or it could be close. I wouldn't be surprised if either of the two candidates get a supermajority, or at least a big overwhelming majority, because the polls have been showing that this thing has been close. I don't think it is as close as the polls have made it out to be. I think the reality on the ground will hit eventually tonight or tomorrow and show one candidate clearly the more competitive candidate. It could be either Ms. Harris or it could be number 40. Again, me being very clear, not taking any sides, as I never do in politics, but I knew it was not going to be a close election. I was reading what was happening, and alas, it came down to that. So that's it. That's my presentation. That's my story. That's my narrative. That's my program for today. I'm looking forward to engaging you again sometime in the future. I may look at the call. I may look at the comments you make or the questions that you ask and respond to them sometime later on. But I like to keep my program short and to the point. Thank you very much for being live. And for those of you who are going to view, to comment sometime later on. Tune in for the next Politics and Power whenever it is announced in the future.